If everyone would please have their seats, we're going to get started with our meeting. Good evening. It is 6:00 p.m. on Tuesday, October 22nd, 2024. I'd like to call the meeting of the Peoria City Council to order. I'd also like to welcome everyone that's here in our historic City Council chambers, including our young guests from the Jack and Jill program. Thank you for being here. I'd also like to welcome everyone who's listening on WCBU and watching on cable channel 22. Madam Clerk, the council mics are open. Please call the roll.
Mayor Ali.
Present.
Councilmember Allen.
Present.
Councilmember Sear.
Here.
Councilmember Gordon Young.
Present.
Councilmember Graham.
Here.
Councilmember Jackson. Here. Councilmember Kelly. Here. Councilmember Euler. Councilmember Riggenbach.
Here.
Councilmember Valpula. And Councilmember Vespa.
Here.
You have a quorum present, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Everyone, please join me and stand for a moment of silent prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk?
We are at proclamations.
Okay. Before we move to proclamations, I might like to make an acknowledgement of one of our council members. Councilmember, 4th District, Councilmember Andre Allen has been a student for the past 5 years, a graduate student in a doctoral program. And last week, he successfully defended his dissertation, and now he is Dr. Andre Allen. So congratulations. So we want to say that he's better known as Dr. Dre. You're welcome. Dr. Allen, is there anything that you would like to say?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First off, thank you for the acknowledgement. Thank you for your countless support and being a role model to me in this journey. Honestly, I'm very floored to be at this point of my life, to be honest. I'm a guy who got a 16 on the ACT twice coming out of high school, and just always had a dream of just achieving a bachelor's degree, and went to ICC for 2 years and did okay there, but just kind of stumbled and transferred to Eastern Illinois University and achieved my bachelor's and my master's. And, you know, God just continued to keep providing opportunities and grace to me. And I never thought that I have a doctorate. I never thought to this day I would be in this position. So I'm just someone who's truly had a lot of favor and grace from God and a supportive village. So thank you to everyone who's been a part of that. Huge thanks to my wife and my kids who allowed me to pursue this journey over the last 5 years and was patient with Daddy being in the basement, typing a paper or missing an activity, trying to meet those deadlines. But again, thank you to everyone for the prayers and just support of me and my family over the years. Thank you.
You're welcome. Very well deserved. You're quite a role model. Thank you. Our first proclamation recognizes National Preparedness Month And we have Jason Marks, Peoria County Director of Emergency Management Preparedness. Mr. Marks, thank you for being here. Whereas National Preparedness Month creates an important opportunity for every community member in the city of Peoria to prepare their homes, businesses, and communities for any type of emergency, including natural disasters and potential terrorist attacks. And whereas investing in the preparedness of ourselves, our families, our businesses, and our neighborhoods can reduce fatalities and economic devastation in our communities and in our nation. And whereas the Federal Emergency Management Agency's READY campaign and other federal, state, local, tribal, territorial, private, and volunteer agencies are working to increase public activities in preparing for emergencies and to educate individuals on how to take action. And whereas the emergency preparedness is the responsibility of everyone in the city of Peoria, and all community members are urged to make preparedness a priority and work together to develop their own emergency preparedness plans, ensuring that individuals, families, and communities are prepared for disasters and emergencies of any type. Now, therefore, I, Rita Ali, Mayor of the City of Peoria, Illinois, do hereby encourage all community members to work together towards creating a more prepared society and recognize the month of October too, as National Preparedness Month in Peoria, Illinois. Mr. Marks.
So I'd just like to thank the mayor and the council for recognizing September's Preparedness Month. It is September, however, a key component of emergency management is flexibility, and September was an extremely busy month for us in emergency management. And I believe the evening I was supposed to come, I ended up having to make a trip to Chicago to do a presentation following day. So I appreciate your willingness to be flexible with us.
Sure.
And so I look forward to continuing to work with the council as we move forward in the city, just preparing for
Sure.
future things. So, thank you.
Thank you for leading this effort. Thank you,
you.
Mr. Marks. Our next proclamation recognizes brachial plexus injury awareness week, and we have Ryan Alpeter and Vanessa Alpeter. They are the parents of 3-year-old Adeline Alpeter, who suffered a brachial plexus injury at birth. And Ryan is the classification and compensation specialist in our HR department. Welcome. Whereas brachial plexus injuries affect the network of nerves that control the muscles of the shoulder, arm, elbow, wrist, hand, and fingers, and can result in full to partial paralysis of one or both arms, as well as a series of secondary issues. And whereas brachial plexus injuries can occur during the birthing process as a result of trauma, as a result of specific medical procedures, or due to viral diseases. And whereas approximately 2 to 5 out of 1,000 newborns are affected by brachial plexus injuries, careful monitoring of pregnant women exhibiting documented risk factors associated with shoulder dystocia and brachial plexus birth injuries, and the recommended maneuvers during delivery of a shoulder dystocia baby can help prevent the occurrence of these injuries. And whereas lack of information related to current treatment protocol and outcome expectations for brachial plexus injuries hinders government agencies in their efforts to provide appropriate benefits and services to those in serious need. And whereas increased understanding and awareness of brachial plexus injuries will ensure hope of a better future for people affected, as well as possibly preventing this injury from occurring. Now, therefore, I, Rita Ali, Mayor of Peoria, do hereby recognize the week of October 20th through October 26, 2024, as Brachial Plexus Injury Awareness Week in Peoria.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council. in honor of our daughter and the many others that have gone through the same journey as her, we're honored to accept this proclamation, and we look forward to spreading awareness going forward for both this injury and the treatments that are available. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for making us aware. Yes. Our next proclamation recognizes Respiratory Care Week. And we have Mary Beth Kreger, Respiratory Therapist Program Director at ICC, and Sandra Schaefer, Director of Clinical Education Respiratory Program at Illinois Central College. Welcome, ladies. Whereas the health of all Americans depends on educated minds and trained hands, and the practice of modern medicine at the high standards that we now enjoy would not be possible without the daily work performed in respiratory care. And whereas according to local hospitals, there are approximately 175 respiratory therapists on staff in the Peoria area, and at least 120 more in the Tri-County area, along with 40 respiratory therapist program students. All are dedicated to their calling and helping our community breathe better every day. Whereas these multi-skilled professionals help create a professional and comforting atmosphere for patients by offering them guidance and support. And whereas through their dedication, respiratory therapists have made a vital contribution to the quality of health care in the United States. Now, therefore, I, Rita Ali, Mayor of the City of Peoria, Illinois, urge all community members to recognize and support the vital work of respiratory therapists and hereby recognize the week of October 20th through the 26th as Respiratory Care Week in Peoria. Thank you. Thank you, ladies. I was a child with asthma, and I happened to grow out of it at age 14, but I definitely understand the great value of your work.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, council members. We accept this on behalf of all working therapists. It's a little-known profession, but very valuable for the hard work that they do every day that they sometimes go unrecognized for. And all of the students that are working very hard to earn that degree as well, and we're just so proud of them. So thank you for recognizing them and celebrating them.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Our final proclamation recognizes the Peoria Historical Society Henry DeTanti Award, and we have Ed Berry, Peoria Historical Society Vice President and Henry DeTanti Award Celebration Co-Chair, and Jim Johnson, Peoria Historical Society Board Member and Henry DeTanti Award Celebration Co-Chair. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. And ladies, who are the ladies?
To my right is Susie Pappenhaus, our board president, and to my left is Liz Kleiss, our executive director.
Wonderful, great. Whereas founded in 1934, the Peoria Historical Society is the only local institution focused exclusively on the rich history of Peoria. And whereas the mission of the Peoria Historical Society is to preserve, share, and celebrate stories of the Peoria area. And whereas native Peorians, Dr. John and Marilyn Leyland, have long been leaders in researching, developing, and sharing stories about Peoria's diverse history. And whereas the Peoria Historical Society's annual Henry DeTanti Award is the organization's highest honor and will be celebrated this year at an event on Thursday, November 14th, mark your calendars. And whereas the Henry DeTanti Award is given to those who have spent their lives in leadership positions that help promote our city. Now, therefore, I, Rita Ali, Mayor of the City of Peoria, Illinois, and on behalf of the Peoria City Council, do hereby recognize and celebrate Dr. John and Marilyn Leyland as the recipients of the Peoria Historical Society's 2024 Henry DeTanti Award in Peoria.
Honorable Mayor Ali, I would simply like to thank you very much for this proclamation. It's incredibly appreciated, and I would certainly like to invite Again, the proclamation speaks for itself, the rich history of the Peoria Historical Society and the Detente Award as well. I'd like to invite each one of you to join us on November 14th in support of our organization. And I'd be remiss if I wouldn't use this opportunity to say one more thing, that certainly I think your devotion, the mayor, the council, and city staff to the Peoria community does not go unnoticed throughout our community. I consider the Peoria Historical Society and the Peoria City Council and the entire city to be real partners in our rich history and in moving the ball forward in terms of our community. So again, thank you very much. I'll let my colleague Jim Johnson speak.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. Peoria indeed has a rich history. Whether you go back to Detente and our Native Americans, the early years in Peoria, Peoria County was settled 200 years ago, starting next year. We've been called the distilling capital of the world, the tractor capital of the world. We're working on our next phase right now that may be the medical innovation capital of the world, and we'll be here to chronicle that. The one thing I'm really excited about is we are diversifying some of our stories. Our mission is to tell the stories of Peoria's rich history. Next year, we are introducing a new program about the history of Southtown, trying to recreate that very rich neighborhood, and I think everybody's going to be very pleased when they see that. So thanks for the opportunity to address you. Good night.
Thank you. Can't wait. Appreciate it. Madam Clerk?
We are at the approval of the minutes.
Councilmember Riggenbach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to approve the minutes of the joint City Council Town Board meeting held on October 8th, 2024 as printed.
Seconded by Councilmember Kelly. Any questions, comments? Please cast your ballots. Who can put mine? Oh, that's why. It's the user. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
We have 3 public hearings for this evening. 24-303 is a public hearing regarding the proposed annexation of 1033 East Mossville Road in Mossville, Illinois, and we need a motion to open the public hearing.
Can I get a motion to open the public hearing? Moved by Councilmember Sears, seconded by Councilmember Allen. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Okay. So, is it legal counsel Hayes?
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
This is an annexation to allow some development of a parcel which will not be contiguous to the city and likely will not be subject to annexation for quite some time. The property's held in a family trust. It's a farming operation. Route 6 actually divides the parcels, and so to develop them for just a couple of residential lots, they're able to do so without connecting to sanitary sewer by the combined annexation agreement and zoning privileges that we'll approve later in the meeting. This is the public hearing for people to determine whether they want to make any public comment on those issues.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. Did you want to speak to this also? Okay.
No, I was just here to answer your questions.
Okay, very good. Is there anyone that would like to speak to item 24-303, the public hearing regarding the proposed annexation of 1033 East Mossville Road in Mossville, Illinois. Again, is there anyone here that would like to speak to the public hearing regarding the proposed annexation of 1033 East Mossville Road? And finally, is there anyone here that would like to speak to the public hearing regarding the proposed annexation of 1033 East Mossville Road? I would like to ask for a motion to close the public hearing, moved by Councilmember Sears, seconded by Councilmember Allen. If there's no questions, please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
24-304 is a public hearing regarding the proposed amendment to the annexation agreement for 9601 North Allen Road, Dunlap, Illinois. And we need a motion to open the public hearing.
Moved by Councilmember Sears, seconded by Councilmember Gordon Young. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Corporation Counsel Hayes.
I'm going to defer to the much better versed member of our staff at the podium. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Assistant Director Allison.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. This is an annexation amendment, an amendment to an annexation agreement that you have already passed for property that a portion has actually annexed into the city of Peoria, a portion has not, and has conditions upon being met for future annexation. This request before you is to amend the terms of that agreement to allow for a specific use for a gravel laydown yard.
Okay.
Does that answer any questions that you have?
Any questions for Director Allison? If not, I will ask for any public comment regarding item 24-304, the public hearing regarding the proposed amendment to the annexation agreement for 9601 North Allen Road in Dunlap, Illinois.
Mayor, if I could just add one comment for the record.
Pardon me?
I would like to add one comment for the record.
Oh, please. Yes, please.
So the unique element here is that Ameren is doing a large transmission project in our area.
Okay.
And they need space to put their equipment to stage it for that. And so typically we would not be granting a concession like this for a gravel laydown yard to accommodate that project and to make it financially low cost so that it doesn't move on to the ratepayers. We're allowing this improvement to a gravel lot to allow for that laydown lot for that specific purpose. And we have a lot of faith and confidence in the Hares that they'll operate that facility responsibly after Ameren's completed using it. So I just wanted to express that this is a unique circumstance and has staff's full support because of the utility aspect of the project. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you for that clarification. Is there anyone who would like to speak to item 24-304, the public hearing regarding the proposed amendment to the annexation agreement for 9601 North Allen Road in Dunlap? And finally, is there anyone who would like to speak to the public hearing regarding the proposed amendment to the annexation agreement for 9601 North Allen Road in Dunlap? I would like to request a motion to close the public hearing, moved by Councilmember Velpula, seconded by Councilmember Kelly. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Our last public hearing, 24-305, is a public hearing regarding the revised 2025 City of Peoria budget.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is our annual public hearing that we hold for the budget, so it's an opportunity for the public to provide any comment to us on the budget.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone present that would like to speak to the public hearing regarding the revised 2025 City of Peoria budget? And for a second time, is there anyone here? that
Madam
would like-
Mayor, if I may, we need a motion to open the public hearing,
Oh, we didn't
please.
do that, did we? That means I'm going to have to start all over. Okay, moved by Councilmember Allen, seconded by Councilmember Seer to open the public hearing regarding the revised 2025 budget. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Is there anyone present that would like to speak to the public hearing regarding the revised 2025 City of Peoria budget? Is there anyone present that would like to speak to the revised 2025 City of Peoria budget? And finally, is there anyone here that would like to speak to the revised 2025 City of Peoria budget? May I have a motion to close the public hearing on the budget, moved by Councilmember Graham, seconded by Councilmember Kelly? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
We are at the consent agenda. 24-306 is a communication from the City Manager and Finance Director Comptroller with a request to approve the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Peoria and the County of Peoria for full-service animal control services. 24-307 is a communication with a request to approve a resolution releasing the minutes of closed meetings listed on Schedule A and for confidentiality to remain as to the minutes of Schedule B. 24-308 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Community Development with a request to concur with a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to approve a resolution approving an addendum to Resolution Number 23-037 to allow for a gravel laydown yard on Lot 3 for the property located at 9601 North Allen Road, Peoria, Illinois. 24-309 is a communication with a request to adopt an ordinance vacating 342 feet by 18 feet of an alley running perpendicular to Spalding Avenue and Bryan Street and bounded generally by Spalding Avenue, Northeast Adams Street, Northwest Bryan Street, and Northeast Jefferson Avenue in Peoria, Illinois. 24-310 is a communication with a request to concur with the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to adopt an ordinance amending existing special use ordinance numbers 13-194 and 13-614 as amended in a Class C2 large-scale commercial district to allow for a 135.5 square feet freestanding sign for the property located at 3819 West War Memorial Drive, commonly known as the Willow Knolls Shopping Center in Peoria, Illinois. And 24-311 is an appointment by Mayor Ali as co-chairs to the Joint Commission on Racial Justice and Equity Steering Committee with a request to concur of Tom Pelger and Angela Bolden. And that concludes our consent agenda.
Is there any items that you want to pull off of consent? Councilmember Seer,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to approve.
seconded by Councilmember Allen. Any comments or questions? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
We are at first readings. 24-312 is a communication from the City Manager and Corporation Council with a request to receive and file a first reading of an ordinance modifying Section 2-350E1 regarding the Public Safety Employee Benefits Act.
Mr. Manager, Council Hayes?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome.
There we go. Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Public Safety Employees Benefit Act provides health care coverage for catastrophically injured public safety employees. That's our police officers and firefighters who are injured in the line of duty. This benefit has been conveyed by enactments by the General Assembly and has been improved from time to time but by other acts of the legislature. Recently, the state legislature determined that the members that are entitled to that benefit should be able to select the type of coverage that they can enroll in rather than allowing the employer to determine that. We're modifying our Public Safety Employee Benefit Act ordinance in order to fall in line with that unfunded mandate by the state to further improve that benefit. Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. Does anybody have any questions for Council Hayes? Councilmember Seer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to receive and file.
Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Jackson. Any questions? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
We are at regular business. 24-313 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Community Development with a request to concur with a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to approve a resolution approving a pre-annexation agreement for the property located at 1033 East Mossville Road in Mossville, Illinois, and this item requires a 2/3 vote of corporate authorities, so for a total of 8 votes.
Okay, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to turn the floor over to our Assistant Community Development Director, Lee Allison, who will explain this annexation agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, Madam Mayor, and Council. As Corporation Council described a little bit ago, this is a pre-annexation agreement for a property that is located within our 1.5-mile extraterritorial jurisdiction, but not contiguous to the city corporate boundaries at this time. It's intending to allow a division of the property that is actually physically divided currently by Route 6. So you have about 14 acres on the east side of Route 6, 117 acres on the west side. This agreement does 2 things. It puts in place an annexation agreement for future contiguity. It also identifies a zoning class of I-1 light industrial should the property be annexed to the city, and it also allows the official division of the property into those 2 parcels as they're currently divided by Route 6. The term of the agreement is actually a little bit different. Usually they're for 20 years and then they expire. There is a provision in this particular agreement that allows an automatically renewable 20-year term until either the city or the property owners provide notification of termination. So I just want to point that out, that it does give this kind of an extended time frame for possible annexation. We do have to reach contiguity first. Any questions that I can answer for you?
Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Assistant Director Allison, why is it that we're not doing a straight-out 20-year like we do with the other annexations? I don't have any particular objection, but why the difference?
I think it attempts to recognize that maybe this property may take a little longer for us to actually reach contiguity, given what's between the current limits and this property. There are some, there's additional properties that would have to be annexed. It would just take a little bit longer than the 20-year traditional time period. So this allows for that extended opportunity of time.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Welcome. Councilmember Seer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to concur with the recommendation.
Second? Seconded by Councilmember Kelly. Any other questions? Please cast your ballots. Councilmember Velpula? Uh-oh, what happened? Okay, we have to restart. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Okay. Madam Clerk?
24-314 is a communication from the City Manager and Corporation Council with a request to adopt an ordinance approving a redevelopment agreement with ACIA PLLC for a proposed Porsche automobile dealership at 8215 North Allen Road within the Medina Plains Allen Road Business Park TIF District redevelopment project area.
Council Hayes?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We had anticipated that we'd be prepared to move forward on this, but they're still awaiting corporate approval on the redevelopment agreement. And so I've asked Councilman Sear if he would accommodate with a motion to defer this matter to the November 12th City Council meeting.
Sure.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Councilmember Sear?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to defer until November 12th meeting.
Seconded by Councilmember Allen. Any questions? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
24-315 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Community Development with a request for the following. A, approve a contract with GIMAX Corporation for the demolition of 4101 through 4103 Southwest Adams Street, and B, adopt an ordinance amending the City of Peoria 2024-2025 biennial budget relating to the Eagle View TIF fund for the demolition of 4104 through 4103 Southwest Adams and required environmental remediation of the building in an amount up to $200,000. And this item requires a 2/3 vote of council members voting, no less than 6 votes, and we need separate votes on each, please.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to turn the floor over to our Community Development Director, Joseph Doolan, to talk through this item.
Thank you, Manager. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Exciting item in front of you. Well, exciting in our worlds. It's the demolition of the building that many of you might know as the Southside Market. If you've entered the city of Peoria through Bartonville coming into Peoria, you've probably seen the eyesore for multiple years. Boarded up, vacant. It's traded multiple owners. The city still does not own the property, but thanks to Lane Manager Matt Smith, our Code Enforcement Manager Ashley Elias, and our Building Safety Manager Rich Storm, and then working with Max Walton in the legal department, they've put it through the demo process, fast track demo due to the roof collapsing and the bowing wall. So we will be pursuing the demolition shortly, hopefully after this passes. We might find some environmental issues inside the building once we start, which is why the ask is for $200,000, which is over the price of what the bid was, to ensure that happens. And then hopefully in the next 2.5 months, that building will be removed. Our legal department will then look to lien the property for those costs and hopefully in the long term obtain ownership of that lot as well. So happy to answer any questions.
Great. This will be big blight removal. Thank you. Any questions? If not, I'm going to turn to you, Councilwoman Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just like to move to approve.
Okay, item
A.
Okay, seconded by Councilmember Graham. Any questions? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Councilmember Jackson.
I would like to move to approve item number B.
Seconded by Councilmember Graham. Any questions? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Madam Clerk?
24-316 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Community Development with a request to concur with a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to adopt an ordinance amending an existing special use ordinance number 18163 with waivers in a Class CG General Commercial District for an expansion of a non-conforming social service institution, commonly referred to as the Salvation Army, in order to construct a new building and make parking lot alterations to replace an existing shelter for the homeless for the property located at 400, 412, and 416 Northeast Jefferson Avenue, and 401, 403, 405, 407, 409, 411, 413, 415, 417, and 419 Northeast Adams Street, Peoria, Illinois.
Okay, Director Doolin.
Thank you, Mayor. The item in front of you, if you remember, came to council a few months ago, along with a couple other items with resolutions related to this project. The reason it's not on consent is because we specifically wanted to announce that about a week and a half ago, we received word from the state of Illinois that we will be receiving a $2 million grant that will specifically go towards this Salvation Army project. At the time we brought forth the original special use, we had to have that approved before we applied for the grant. And so since then, they have made some slight amendments to what their plan was and how they were going to construct it. It's now going to be a two-story building. They also made some changes, so now they no longer have to shut down the existing men's shelter while they're doing construction, so it'll stay in use while they construct the new one and then take that down after they build the new one. So just really appreciate Salvation Army's willingness. Yes, it's a $2 million grant from the state of Illinois through the city, but they have done a lot of fundraising, and it's a very large project. They have a representative from Salvation Army here. If you have questions specifically about the project, I'm sure they're happy to answer. But really want to appreciate their work and appreciate all they do for our community too.
Welcome. Any questions? Councilmember Riggenbach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Director Lewis, for that synopsis for us tonight. I would like to recognize Ranger yourselves from the Salvation Army along the way beyond us, and have been the quarterback of this project from the city perspective. So, gentlemen, thank you for being here. We want to publicly thank you for what Salvation Army means to our community. As you recall from our previous discussions, their tentacles really reach wide. It's not just the shelter, but many other services. So I'm particularly excited about this. I think with the issues that we're talking about with on shelter right now, the timing of this is very fortunate. Clearly, it's going to take some time to come to fruition, but this is another step in that journey. So with that, I would move for the approval.
Okay, thank you. Seconded by Councilmember Jackson. Any questions, comments? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen. Madam Clerk?
24-317 is a communication from the City Manager and Corporation Council with a request to approve the site application for a Class B restaurant 50% food liquor license with on-site consumption and retail sale of alcohol for RRR of Peoria LLC doing business as Rice and Spice at 1200 West Main, Store 10-11, with a recommendation from the Liquor Commission to approve.
Council Hayes.
Hello, Your Honor. Rice and Spice would operate a Class B licensed restaurant with alcohol at a site previously occupied by Dax Smokehouse that also held a Class B license. This is in the Campus Town commercial strip mall. There was a recommendation for approval by staff, including our fire staff and building staff and the police department. So we're recommending approval of the Class B license. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilmember Graham?
I would move to approve as outlined.
Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Kelly. Any discussion? Councilmember Valpula?
Madam Mayor, I would like to abstain from the voting because I have some relationship with the owners.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes with one abstention. Valpula. Madam Clerk?
We are at unfinished business. 24-283 is a communication from the City Manager and Corporation Council with a request to approve the site application for a Class A tavern liquor license with on-site consumption and retail sale of alcohol for Tataboo LLC doing business as Tataboo at 631 West Main, contingent upon the issuance of a certificate of occupancy with a recommendation from the Liquor Commission to approve.
Council Hayes?
Thank you, Your Honor. The applicant for this establishment, Ms. Garcia, we've lost contact with her. We've tried to contact her on a number of occasions due to some questions that came up. The owner of the actual structure is concerned about the capital costs required to bring what has been an idle space up to code in order to operate. Because of that, we've been reaching out for the past few weeks, and council may note that this has been deferred previously. I've not been able to receive any response despite multiple attempts through email and voicemail to the contacts listed on the application. And so at this point, our recommendation would be to withhold any approval. Perhaps if the applicant comes forward and has an explanation, we would be supportive, but at this point, we're not supportive of moving forward. Thank you, Your Honor.
So we could table it? Or would you advise just leaving it under unfinished business?
I've had discussions with a councilman on the ward who is uncomfortable with tabling it or deferring it further and would prefer to deny it at this point, but I don't know if he'll make that motion at this point or not. So
You're recommending denial?
I don't see that there's any real difference other than one of the reasons that I made the record that I did was that I would be supporting council waiving the ban for 6 months if they came forward with a reasonable explanation of why they've lost contact with staff.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
But we have not sent any letter by mail, just.
I have not corresponded by mail, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. Any discussion? Did you have anything on this issue, Councilmember Graham? I see it's District 2.
Yes, I'm not running after people who apply for this privilege. I have no intention of running after people who do not return phone calls. I move to deny.
Seconded by Councilmember Kelly. My only hesitancy is that in voting yes to that is that we have not sent any correspondence by mail. We've only corresponded by email, which sometimes there's issues with technology and left messages. I don't know, whether some emergency came up or not, but that's my only reservation. So we have a motion and a second to deny. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes with 1 nay, Ali. Madam Clerk?
24-302 is a communication from the City Manager and Finance Director Comptroller with a request to hold a discussion on the 2025 revised budget. And on your desk, there is a handout of the report backs requested from the last meeting.
Okay, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We do have the list and series of report backs that were provided via email to council. The very first report back was from Councilman Sear, who had asked for the 7-year revenue and expense table. That answer was provided by Finance. The second report back identified and basically split up our capital improvement program by council district. And there are some projects that are in all districts, some that are in multiple districts, so that was laid out. We answered Councilwoman Jackson's question about the SEPTED program. How much had we been spending to date so far on that program? Councilwoman Jackson also had questions about the Western Avenue Greenway and funding, as well as have we ever had any funding for Peoria Grown? We answered that. Councilman Vopula had asked questions about the business attraction strategies, and the economic development team put that together. I think Councilman Vopula also had a question about the spend down of the ARPA funds, so that detail is laid out in the packet. Councilman Graham had asked a question over the amount of resources and funding that we have provided for affordable housing projects and homeless funding and other direct expenses on addressing homelessness. Community Development put that response together. And we do have some additional information that we are looking to get, which would be the calls for service from the public safety standpoint. It's just getting it out of the CAD system is pretty labor intensive, but we'll be able to pull that information and probably have it for you next week as a follow-up. Following that, we have the violence prevention funding, and the question came from Councilman Graham about how do we address violence prevention going forward with the response from the police department. We did get an update from OSF on their adult mental health facility, so we got that included in the packet as well. Thanks to OSF for providing that. And then legal, Mayor, you had the question about the funding for nonprofits coming from the cannabis businesses, and that was provided by the legal department, as well as some of the information on the finances of cannabis and the growth in revenues that we've seen from that. And so those are the questions that we have to date from council that we provided. We're happy if there are additional questions. I know we're now another week into council having been able to dig into the budget book. If there are additional questions or issues you want us to provide report backs to, we'll go ahead and grab those. If there are ultimately any budget motions, I think what staff would like to do is assemble those as direction from council tonight, and then we can take those and prepare a budget motion sheet like we've had in the past and bring that to the meeting next week. I think next week we have our truth and taxation hearing coming forward, so we'll have to do that as part of the budget. And then that way we can start to assemble everything else that council may have. So we're back to the floor being yours. I just wanted to provide that as by way of introduction.
Okay, I just want to kind of go back through these numbered items to make sure that all the questions were answered. The report backs were fulfilled all the needs requested of council. And I want to start with you, Council Member Sear, in terms of the 7-year revenue expense table and CIP by district. Did you have anything else that you needed? Were you satisfied with everything that you received?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was satisfied. I still have some research to do, but I was satisfied with my first request. The second request, I'd like to have a quick conversation with City Manager about because of the census that we receive every 10 years and the new line that we have for all the district. I know in the CIP, at least 3 mistakes were made in my district. Some of these projects are no longer in the 5th district. They're in, I believe, the 4th district now. And so maybe you can help us understand the new lines, Mr. Manager. And also with that, as you and I were talking before the meeting, we have, in my understanding, is we have 3 buckets of money for the CIP, and we have like the CSO bucket of money. We have the sewer bucket of money in our budget, and also we have the stormwater fees in a 3rd bucket. So, and I see in the CIP, there's a lot of projects that we used to talk about where the CSO was really District 1 and 2, stormwater was District 3, 4, and 5. I saw a lot of money, a lot of project paid with the stormwater utility fee in District 1 and 2. So if you can explain that, it'd be great. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Yeah. So when it comes to stormwater and the combined sewers, the city is under a federal consent decree to address our combined sewers and the overflows that we have into the Illinois River. The geographic area that covers is really south of McClure inside the city of Peoria. So it's really the oldest parts of the city of Peoria. And it's not entirely the entire part of that, and we can provide you a map that shows you the CSO areas, and we can do an overlay with the council districts so everyone can see that. But when we did the redistricting, and the map is right outside, that shows the council districts when they were approved in 2022, I believe that we did that. What we noticed is that districts 1 and districts 2 now go very far north and south, and District 3 does as well. In fact, districts 2, 3, 4, and 5 all touch at the corner of Northmore and University. So if you think about that, 4 of the council districts all come together at that one intersection. So the districts have moved considerably farther to the north. So as we start to look at from McClure to Northmore, there's a lot of areas in districts 2, 3, and District 1 that are going to be part of what we would traditionally think of as newer parts of the city, and not all of that, but some of that is relatively newer parts of the city. And so there, we are using stormwater dollars to address the drainage issues that we have in those areas. So the districts have moved, and while you will still see that the lion's share of the work that is done in the stormwater utility or in the combined sewer overflows are going to be in District 1. They can also be in District 2 and in District 3 now. So I hope that helps to answer the question. Like I said, we can prepare a map that shows you the council districts with the CSO overlay as well.
Thank you very much for the explanation. Do I still have the floor, Madam Mayor?
Yes, you do.
Mr. Craddy, Director Craddy, there is at least one I can see. Is this report here, report back, has it been corrected as far as the locations? Or I can see in District 5 we still have a couple mistakes.
It has not been updated to reflect the 3 projects you talked about specifically, so that's something we can work on and get that updated.
Okay, thank you very much. And I was not here last Tuesday, so if I asked the same question, I apologize. So on the HRA tax, I don't know if anybody talked about that, but can we get, or do we have a breakdown somewhere in our 3-ring binder about the breakdown for the HRA tax, the revenues?
Yes, let me get to that real quick. If you go to page, it's going to be on page 56 in your book.
Okay.
There is a breakdown by each of the 3 different types of sources when the hotel, the restaurant, and the amusement tax components.
Okay, thank you very much. I will do that. Last question, sir, on page 7 here, to what we got today, also the revised budget. Talk to us a little bit about the debt. Very important to me. When you say, it only says debt, $21 million, 21.8, that is obviously the payment on the outstanding liability. Can you talk to us about what the liability is and how does it work as far as our credit rating with these different agencies? Thank you.
Yep. So the $21 million that is in the budget, it really is talking about your principal and interest payments on that debt. The total outstanding debt the city has is approximately about $180 million right now. About $30 million of that does constitute straight general obligation debt. So I know this came up last week when we were having a conversation about pension obligation bonds. So that's the number that currently goes against that 10% limit that the council has as a policy. The remaining debt has both a revenue component and a GO component. So that doesn't count against just our straight general obligation piece. So if we're talking about pension obligation bonds in the future, we would have to look at kind of that ordinance piece. The rating agencies obviously more primarily do look at your GO bonds, but they do look at kind of your double barrel revenue bond, your revenue / GO bonds that we do have in terms of what they consider in your rating.
Just to make sure we're all on the same page, what is the EAV and what would be the 10% you're talking about?
Yeah, so the EAV this year is right around $2.3 million. It's estimated to go up, or $2.3 billion, sorry. So we would be looking at close to about $230 million would be the debt limit.
$230 million, correct? Correct. So last question, we obviously, this will not be a concern of this group of people here, but the unfunded liabilities for pension, we're about $350, $360 million, correct?
Correct.
So in 2030, which is about 5-6 years from now, what do you think this liability will be down to?
My guess, looking at kind of how they split up what is your regular cost versus what our contribution goes towards unfunded liability, my guess would be somewhere in the neighborhood of probably $225 to $250 million. It really just depends on what the market looks like over the next 6 years to decide what that number is going to look like. But that's where my range probably is, around 2030.
So just to make sure we don't, it's really not a appropriate conversation tonight or for this budget, but just want to make sure the future of this city in 5-6 years from now, the maximum, if your numbers are accurate, that we can issue debt would be about 230 to, no, if depend on the AV, but let's say $230 million, which still, we would be right at where the unfunded liability would be, maybe.
That is true. Obviously, this is a council policy. As a home rule entity, this is a council imposed limit, so council can always change that limit beyond the 10%.
Okay. I just wanted to plant the seed for the future councils. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Madam Mayor, thank you.
You're very welcome. Councilmember Allen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate my colleague in the 5th District for asking for this list of the CIP projects. Director Craddy or City Manager, for the listening audience, can you all talk about how are these projects determined in our CIP outline here?
Well, in many ways, as we start to plan for projects, we start to look at the amount of time that it's going to take and the resources that we have. And then we start to adjust when we can structure the timing of certain projects. Particularly when we're talking about road funding and infrastructure funding, it's assembling other costs or other revenue streams to come in. We may have state motor fuel taxes that come into a project. There may be local motor fuel taxes. We may now be using stormwater utility funds because of the drainage. There's a portion of every road that has drainage in it that ties in with that. We may get a federal grant that comes in or a state grant that comes into a road project. So the art, so to speak, of how we assemble everything is really looking at when can we put this together with the needs that we know that we have across the entire city, coupled with the projects that are already in the queue. In many times, for example, we have a 3-year construction project on the Adams Jefferson one-way, two-way conversion, where we're doing the construction over 2 full construction years and then tidying it up in the 3rd. So Wisconsin Avenue is a project that is being stretched out over many years. Sheridan Road, when we redid Sheridan Road, was a project that lasted for a number of years. Glen Avenue is a project that has lasted for a number of years. So you have to look at how you tie all of that in with the resources that you have available with us at the time.
Thank you. And 2 highlights that I do want to point out that are in this year's CIP. One is the funding for the engineering study for Reservoir Boulevard. I know that you all probably get tired of me talking about Reservoir Boulevard, but it is a priority of mine in the 4th District. So I appreciate seeing that in the budget, and then also addressing the lighting on Orange Prairie. We know that is a priority that needs to be addressed. So I was excited to see that in the CIP. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. And Councilmember Jackson, I see your light is on. We were going to go to you next.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
So your items, you have items 3, 4, and 5, unless you wanted to speak to something else first.
I'd like to speak to item number 3. And I was just kind of wanting to get my question answered with regards to the number of projects that have been put forth with regards to safety as it relates to environmental design. And I see that I believe it's the 3rd paragraph, it lists that there have been 25 projects with about $150,000 spent. Council Manager, Mr. Manager, do we know where those locations have been? I know the emphasis was regarding safety. Were those specific areas?
We identified the areas and hotspots where we had seen the elevated criminal activity. We wanted to focus those efforts in those areas, predominantly in districts 1, 2, and 3. And I think that I don't have the full list. We'll get you the list of where those projects are, and we can provide that as an additional report back to you so you can see that.
And also, is the plan to just continue that work regardless, weather permitting, in the hopes that all of the $700,000 will be spent in time?
Ultimately, what we had envisioned was that we would spend it down, weather permitting, and then we'll start again in the spring once we get through the winter.
Okay, all right.
And we've been doing this work with Public Works crews, and I think that, they're going to be focused in the winter, hopefully not too much, but they'll be focused on snow removal, and, we'll have to do what we can. So hopefully not too much.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. And question number 4, just kind of, it refers to a meeting we had with some of the folks at the Western Avenue Greenway project, and I know their concern had been their abilities to continue all of the work in light of some of the funding challenges they were having. But I see that the city, Public Works has basically just been providing, maintenance work?
Yeah, I think the best way to describe it is really what's here. I mean, we'll do some debris removal, we'll provide them mulch, and it's in-kind services from the city to assist them. I mean, the Greenway is a group of dedicated volunteers that is doing this work out of a love for the city and a love for their neighborhood. So this is an effort for them to do this, and so where we can, we've helped out and tried to lean in and provide that support to them.
They have done a phenomenal job in beautifying what had been, what had become just vacant lots after several houses were torn down up and around that area.
That's correct.
And one of the challenges is, their volunteers are getting older, and funding has been an issue for them as well. So if I could, I'd like to make a motion. Is that something I should do, I can do now with regards to Western Avenue Greenway?
Sure. I think if you want to propose something, like I mentioned, I think what we'll do is try and assemble, if there are motions that council wants to consider, we'll put those together and then bring them back to you for your consideration at the next council meeting when we have the budget meeting on the 29th.
Okay, I would if I could, and that would maybe give us an opportunity to talk about these two projects that are in need of some financial assistance. If I could, Madam Mayor, I would like to propose a motion to amend the 2025 revised budget to provide $50,000 of funding to Western Avenue Greenway and decrease the vacant lot clearing project by $50,000.
Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Allen. And I would ask the manager the total amount that's been proposed by staff for the vacant lot clearing project. What is that total amount?
So that total is actually in another report back. I think what we're looking at carrying over, if you turn to page 13 of the budget report backs, that was about $622,000, maybe a little bit less than that right now based upon what's been accurately spent. So there may be, I think, $500,000 to $550,000 of available funds.
Okay. So this, out of any area, this would be the appropriate area to reduce in order to fund that?
It's just going to mean that we're going to do less vacant lot clearing, of that. But certainly this is an option that's in front of council to do that. So.
Okay. All right. Discussion. Councilmember Sear?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question, is that proper conduct, or conduct probably not the right word, but to really act what I would call a wish list? Can we start making a motion during our budget to ask for money, put our wish list and ask for to make motion on our wish list? Is that the proper way to do it?
We've done that for years. I mean, we've had projects that council has come forward with that said that they want us to bring this forward, and they make a motion, and if the majority of the council wants to support that, then that gets added to or taken out of the budget. I mean, we've had projects like Deerbrook Sheridan Road, Evans Street sidewalk that have been added, at the request of council, after the recommendations of the staff.
So did you have prior discussion, though, to me, it's like, how do you know where the money's going to come from? Just like if I have a wish list tonight, how would you know if it's okay or not?
I did have a conversation with Councilwoman Jackson and suggested to her that if this is the motion she wanted to make, that this could be a location that she could take those funds from that doesn't add anything to the budget.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Councilmember Regenbach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Now, Mr. Manager, is this the same pot that is referenced in question 3 on page 7?
Yes.
So that money, wow, this mic is really loud now. That money was allocated based on the crime statistics, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we're taking 50,000 away, I mean, that's going to affect X number of lots from high crime areas.
Correct.
I'm not sure if I'm ready to support that without wrapping my arms around what I'm giving up. It sounds like Public Works has been filling in the gaps on the Greenway for the last number of years. I mean, this is the first I've heard a request for funding that from the general fund, so I'm not comfortable taking money from the vacant lot program that we had set aside for violence prevention for this cosmetic change at this point. So I wouldn't be able to support it tonight without more background information.
Well, I think what staff was recommending is that we prepare the motions for full vote and final vote by the council at a future meeting to let you have an opportunity to think through and digest. I mean, there may be other motions council members want to make. I mean,
Okay. Well,
So do you want me to give you direction on what I want included now, or wait until the next meeting when there's a...
Now would be fine. This is part of the budget process, is what do you want to do with the budget?
Well, then I need to know what lots are going to be cut out of the program for 50,000. How many lots and what part of town are they in? What council district, where they are?
Sure.
So I need to know if I'm taking it for the Greenway, that it's coming from, where it's coming from specifically. Thank you.
okay, you're welcome. Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I too didn't know about this coming. I would like to ask a parliamentary question. We don't have a problem with making motions and voting on them without notice to the public. Is that correct?
So in our budget process, we've got an amended budget in front of you. Council's free to make motions and amend that budget. Final action on the budget is when we pass the budget. This matter's been properly noticed for the open meetings prospect by what's up on the agenda is to discuss the budget.
Okay.
We're not taking final action on the budget. Okay. But last year, you may or may not recall that this process worked to where we, as the city manager suggested, got ideas at a session like this and in conversation with council people and prepared those motions so that they were all laid out in front of council, and you took action on them. Tonight, there's a motion pending right now. There's been a motion in a second, which is a little beyond what we did last year and what we suggested, but that council's free to act in that fashion. I just want to remind council that final action on the budget that would incorporate all these different amendments won't take place for a couple of weeks now. Okay. And so you're free to make motions tonight, or because of the types of questions that come forward, let us get them prepared, formalized, and then in front of you all so you can consider it. We can have full discussion. So it's up to council's prerogative what to do. Staff doesn't control that, the council does. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, on the Greenway, in general, I don't have a big problem here, but the Greenway, it seems to me, has been there for 40 years anyway, along Western, right? Yeah, I think I remember when that was first put in.
No, houses were torn down.
Yes, houses were torn down. It was made green, and I don't know who did it, but I always kind of thought Moss Bradley did it. The Moss Bradley Residential Association did it. I don't know any of the details as to its maintenance, et cetera. But somebody tore those houses down, somebody landscaped, somebody planted the grass. I don't know who it was. I always figured it was Moss Bradley, but I didn't know. I wonder, and who does that land belong to? Who is the owner of that land? Do we know?
The owner is the Western Avenue Greenway. There is a non-for-profit that has been established that owns that land.
Are we in contact with them on this idea, or?
Well, I'm familiar with them. I've met with them. Here, let me.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Maybe I should clarify my point. I have, this is part of my district. Yes. I've been in conversations with these groups and residents in general for the past 3.5 years. And the whole purpose for bringing the motion forward was to get the item in front of the council to give us an opportunity to talk about dire need for this part of the community, and share with you what you don't know and answer questions you might have about it, and justify the need for this type of funding. As I mentioned earlier, we have folks that have been there beautifying what could have been blight for years, for several years, and the work is appreciated. People are getting old, sir, and they get a little bit of assistance with maintenance from Public Works. They've reached out to the Park District, and they have done fundraising in the past. But as I said, as with groups, neighborhood associations throughout the city of Peoria, members are getting old. And at some point, if we want to maintain the beautification of that area and enjoy it, I think at some point we've got to at least provide some support, whether it's in kind and financial assistance, at least until they're able to recruit younger members. And they have been doing that, and they have been doing fundraising, as other groups have as well. But it is a large portion of Western Avenue, and at some point, the state is coming forward soon to redevelop that roadway. And I think once that work, in addition to the work that the Greenway has done, if we want to maintain that and continue to enhance the neighborhood in and around that area, we have to provide some sort of assistance so that the beautification and the overall enhancement of the Greenway is maintained well beyond the time that the folks who've been doing the work have gone on. And hopefully by that time, we'll have more people who are doing the work that they started years ago. So it would just give us an opportunity to talk about it and why it's important.
So Councilmember Jackson, and I'll give you the floor back, Councilman Kelly, so you can finish up. But I was just going to say, we don't have to vote
No.
on the motion tonight. You can ask staff to prepare the motion for a later vote. And if you know, so that Councilman Regenbach can get some more information, Councilman Kelly can get some, and the entire council can
Sure.
get some more information in advance of a vote. But if you want to withdraw your motion, you can, and we can, you can ask staff to prepare a motion for a later time.
Well, being that we were in budget discussions, I did not want to miss out on an opportunity. If there were funds, especially ARPA funds of some sort that might be available, which is why I brought it forth. We are in budget talks.
It's up to you how you want to move forward.
Well, if we would like to, I'd like to see it on the agenda, at least before we finish budget discussions, to give everybody an opportunity
Okay.
to be well-informed.
So you want to ask staff to
prepare
bring it
something?
back for
Sure,
a motion?
absolutely.
Prepare a motion to come back, okay. Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you, Councilwoman. I appreciate the information. I really was uninformed as to ownership, et cetera. I would like to have us make contact with the Greenway, what is the name of the entity?
The Western Avenue Greenway.
Western Avenue Greenway outfit. And because they've done a wonderful job over the years, and all of a sudden now, there are, I'm sure, plenty of young people in the neighborhood. I don't know where they got their funding. I don't know, but I'd just like to have a better picture along with the report back, please. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Grant?
Western Avenue is one of our most important corridors. Forgive me for putting my at-large hat on here. Also, our state lawmakers understand how important it is with the project that is eventually going to come and hopefully straighten out Western Avenue where we have so many car crashes. And when we had the gas station at one time there where the curve is, I think Jahan Gordon Booth arranged for us to get a cleanup of that site, and that was added on to the Greenway territory, which has been admirably maintained by volunteers for so many years, even the University of Illinois people who are involved in the master gardening program. So it's been a group effort. So thank you for standing up for that, because if we didn't have their help all these years, the city would have to be doing all of it. Let's just not forget that. And now that I've said that, we'll just kind of shut that off for a second, because this has nothing to do with Western Avenue Greenway. We have those retaining walls. I see Director Powers here. Director Powers, I see you way far off. I know you had staff up there. Not sure he can hear. I'm sorry. Manager, we had Director Powers with his staff up there looking, nothing to do with Western Avenue Greenway, although that greenway is adjacent to where we have those crumbling brick walls, which look horrible and where people have apparently been peeling them apart. And I believe you took staff up there and you took a look at what it would take to rebuild those retention walls as part of our maintenance.
That is correct, Councilor, along the entire corridor rather than one property. We looked at all of them and just decided to create a capital project and do them all.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you. But that has, and that's well overdue. And, you know, we're trying to make this corridor attractive. It is a very important corridor. And if we hadn't had this volunteer work for 40, 50 years, it would have been the responsibility of others. And for many years, Councilor Jackson, you know this, and most anybody who's lived in Peoria for any length of time, there were slum properties along there, which we property by property acquired and cleared to create this urban oasis in the heart of our city. So I thank staff for what they've been doing, and through the years, what you've been doing to help them without having to, have a formal line item. Whenever I've called, before Denise Jackson picked up this territory, called your staff, Director Powers, you folks have been nothing but helpful when they've needed things, and I know Western Avenue Greenway, and for that matter, Moss Bradley, which isn't the same thing as Western Avenue Greenway, but it has a vested interest in it, just as West Peoria does. We want our city to look great, the area between the village and the city. We really appreciate what you've done.
Thank you, Councilor. We try to do what we can in kind.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Councilmember Riggenbach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councilwoman Jackson and Councilman Graham, for a little of the historic perspective on this. I think to piggyback on one comment from Councilman Kelly, when you speak with the Greenway Association, Mr. Manager, find out what is their annual budget for that maintenance. Will that $50,000 be for 1 year? Will that be for a couple years? How much? What would that actually allow them to do? So if we could find out what their annual expenses have been historically, then I think that'll give us a better perspective as to what this $50,000 could be spent for.
Sounds good. Yes, that's great. Okay, Councilwoman Jackson, do you want to then withdraw your motion and then make a recommendation to staff? Is that your pleasure? Okay.
We'll get the report backs to you, and then we can prepare the motions to come back to council and if there's other motions that we have this evening from other council members, we'll prepare those as well.
Okay, that's what we did last time.
Yep.
Okay, all right. Councilmember Jackson, you've got another item on the report back?
Yes. This one, it's on page 9, and I have, had opportunities to visit Market 309, and which is a project of Peoria Grown, and we have heard so much about inflation, and I, while prices have gone down, groceries are still very expensive. And I've had on many occasions an opportunity to visit Market 309, which has been going on, probably for about 6 years. I think they've been doing a lot of their work for about 7 years. But food insecurity is still a big problem, not just in 61605. We don't have a grocery store, not just in other areas, 61603, which also lost its Kroger grocery store a few years ago. But as I've had opportunity to go down and visit Market 309 and talk to people, I have found out that they have had people coming from 61605, 61603, on occasion 61604. They've even had people come from other counties, which suggests to me that while the economy is doing better, one of the biggest struggles many families, and they happen to be families with children, struggle with, and that is buying groceries. We have found out, I have found out from visiting the market that in their collaboration with Hy-Vee, they've been able to provide fresh fruit and produce for families, and folks are telling them, based on the data they've been gathering, that they're feeling better. Their blood sugar levels are getting better, going down. They've had dietitians on staff, volunteer and on staff, that have come down and talked to people about food preparations, and it has just been amazing to me some of the positive impact they've had on so many families and building relationships. And if I would like to have an opportunity to maybe get a report back and share some of this information with the council, because I think it's vital. Just like homelessness is a big problem in our community, the problem of food insecurity is equally important. So I would, if I could, Mayor, maybe I could get staff, I would request staff to bring a report back about Peoria Grown and some of the work they've been doing, and find out if there's any way, shape, or form we as a city can provide some assistance, at least until we are able to rectify or help people with this whole issue of food insecurities, because the problem doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon. They have indicated that they're here for the long haul. And so I have just been kind of curious and asking myself what we as a city could do to assist them in their efforts to help families continue to make healthy food choices. So if we could get a report back on some of what they've been doing, Mr. Manager, I would be happy to share this information with my city council colleagues and see what we could do to at least maybe collaborate with them in some shape or form to help them continue their good work.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. And then moving on to item number 6, these are still looking at the report backs. Councilman Velpula, you had a couple of those, business action strategies and ARPA spend down detailed. Do you want to speak to these?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. So when I looked at this business attraction strategies, it's just, I never felt there is any attraction in there. And partially, I have to take the blame because I am supposed to meet up with Assistant City Manager Kimberly Richardson, and I got stuck in a meeting. I could not make it to that meeting. But then going back to our business attraction strategies, so we are asking for food, we are asking for money for cutting down the crime. We don't have corporate tax. So we don't even have a stronger platform to attract businesses. Businesses could be any businesses for that sake. But then if you look at the tax, so basically there are several questions that I have, and I wanted to see if I can sit down with Assistant City Manager Kimberly Richardson and come back for the next week on this item, because I'm not even satisfied with any of these things, because it never will. Even postcards will not help us, or website many people don't go. And I also have a couple questions and suggestions. Maybe I don't understand these things, but a question to you, Mr. City Manager. I just asked you about the TIF, right? So what happens when the TIF is over after 12, 13 years? Will it go back?
So unless there's a legislative extension to the TIF, when a TIF expires, the assessed value remains the same in the TIF, or it grows over time. The incremental tax is no longer used for the purposes of the TIF. It goes back to the taxing bodies. So the school districts generally see the largest increase because they're the largest share of the property tax bill. But so when we close a TIF out, all the taxing bodies then see that assessed value is then calculated in their total tax revenue and collections that comes back in.
So this happens for every dollar that we pay as a tax, is that right? Half of the money goes to, we saw that picture, right?
So there's the base EAV, that from wherever we're starting a TIF, that dollar amount goes to all the taxing bodies. Any incremental growth is utilized in the TIF for the authorized purposes of the TIF. So that could be infrastructure, that could be a developer subsidy for the development work that they've done on a specific property, that could be the cost of financing, It could be a number of allowable expenses under the TIF Act. And then over time, that grows, assuming you have private investment that's utilizing TIF as a benefit. And then when it's done, what's the incremental growth in property taxes then goes to all the taxing bodies. And that gets paid up. So the North Valley, we just recently had a TIF that concluded in the North Valley. All of that incremental growth that occurred over the 23-year period of time, once that ended, that meant that the school district, the county, the city, ICC, the park district, all received the full tax benefit that came from that increased growth inside the TIF district.
Okay. Is there any, it might be a very naive question, but instead of going for general services such as schools and parks, is there a way that the TIF, whenever it is expired, will get back to the general fund, or it's not possible?
So what comes back to the city is the money that we levy in taxes. So our property tax levies are used for pensions, and our property taxes are used for roads. The library uses theirs for library services. And so each government body has separate levies that they levy for their property taxes in terms of what are those allowable expenses.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. I have another question. So I was reading I was doing some research on small cities, how do they attract people. I came across something called Capital Investment Tax Credit. Do you know about that? It's called Capital Investment Tax Credit. Basically, it's an incentive to encourage businesses to invest in assets such as infrastructure. So what it does is it lowers the business tax liability. It provides financial relief and cash flow. And in bigger places, they also are used to attract the foreign direct investments. So I don't know whether that is an applicable situation in Peoria. But again, I'm just trying to research and see whether that could be actually brought into, I don't know if it could be qualified to get a report back, but I would love to hear one.
We'd be happy to look into it, and provide you with a report back, for sure.
And then on the positive side, Madam Mayor, I'm very happy to know that the technology startup businesses started picking up in Peoria. And I think we have a handful of companies or more, I would say, who actually came in for that startup funds that we announced. And I'm very happy that it did not concentrate only on the biotech, but it is focused more on the technology side. And we would probably survive this year. Is that what we have? We have 100,000, 150,000 left in that. Is that right?
So those funds have been expended. We actually are in the final process of approving the last grantee. So we did, it was $250,000 that was budgeted for that program.
Ms. Richardson, could you tell me how many companies got the support?
It was approximately less than a dozen received the grant. And the incentive was if you moved into our qualified census area that we identified, you would get up to $25,000 towards the operation. So operational, it was towards any type of capital equipment and so forth. The majority were outside of that perimeter, but for those who did move into that area, what we saw is that those individuals were in locations where they were co-sharing spaces or other locations for small, these are startups, so they're not going to have a full-blown operation where they're in need of a building themselves at this point.
Ms. Richardson, can you also say, do you have any suggestions to how do we improve that particular program? What else we could do better?
Looking at the grantees, and I can definitely provide a report back to this as well. A lot of them were grantees that I have to admit, most of them were local. However, they could have went anywhere. And because of this program, even though 10,000 might seem like a little bit small dollars, for these businesses, that was a determining factor if they went across the river or stayed here or went to a suburban area. So I do think there is some benefit to it. Technology, it's what we consider, it's a very, I would say, interesting area to explore. Unless we get very more granular to what we're looking for, it is going to be very much open-ended to interpretation, and that our staff has done a wonderful job in trying to identify the right businesses to support through this grant. I would tell you that our biggest dollar amount, though, has been to our renovation grants for our already existing businesses, where I can tell you that need is great. And a lot of those businesses that we've given, not only did it support the business itself, but many of them either would have relocated, would not have been able to expand, or would have closed because they wouldn't have the ability to update their infrastructure within their business to meet the demands of today. I would say that has had probably even more of an impact on our EAV because we are investing in the property, not just the equipment that are being used for the businesses. So I think we've taken a holistic approach in economic development, how we allocate our funds to support businesses that are startups, that are legacy businesses, and that are businesses that are looking to expand within the city. And I agree, we do rely a lot on our relationship with the Greater Peoria Council because that is their job, is to help us with that recruitment piece. Our job is to figure out the tools and mechanisms that we have in our arsenal to provide for when those businesses come to the city looking for support to open or start. And I have to tell you, as I said to one of our council members today, our toolkit is minimal. And that's a conversation that we need to have about how do we expand that toolkit, because we have a number of businesses on a weekly basis meeting with me, my staff, and the manager about locating here in Peoria, but we have a small toolkit of what we can do that's up front versus on the back end. And that is the problem at times, is that they need that capital stack. We don't always have that available on the front end, but we do have some opportunities to support them on the back end of the project. And there's other tools and other opportunities, and we will update that document to be more reflective of those challenges as well.
One final question is, how could we help you to kind of strengthen those weaker things that you said? We have a small toolkit, but we have a bigger pie that's coming in. So how do we grab that, and what needs to be done? Everybody 11 people will have 11 ideas, but if you can come up with, because you are actually working in that area and you're very focused on that, if you can give us some guidance of how best we can put our strengths together to kind of attract and retain more businesses, I think it would be very, very helpful.
I am working on that with our staff, and I would say this: a catalyst is our downtown. And if we can figure out how to support the downtown in a more effective, in a way that we have to work with our private sector. We don't own the buildings. We are here, though, to figure out how best to support those individuals who want to invest in our downtown. We need to really think outside the box of how do we support the downtown in a way that is advantageous for the community, because that is the output that would allow for that catalyst to provide other opportunities. But more to come, and I will be directed by the council and the manager on how he would like for us to present that in the future.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you so much. Thank you for the detailed explanation of these 2 grants that we supported. I personally met so many small business people, and they were very happy that the city is actually helping them in their difficult times. And thank you to your leadership for orchestrating this grant in a very positive way. Thank you so much.
And I just want last one to say, those funds that support those small businesses were through ARPA funds. So there is a sunset, and that sunset is now. unfortunately. So we are getting to the end of how we're able to find those small dollars to work with the smaller businesses. We'll continue to think of some strategies and some creative ideas to continue to fund. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Riggenbach?
I actually wanted to speak on item 7, so if
Oh, go right ahead.
I didn't ask for this originally, Mr. Manager, but something that I've heard asked of me on the street is, how did you guys spend all that ARPA money? And perhaps that's already in the budget and I just missed it so far. But could we get a recap of the $47 million? I think that's something that, frankly, with election season coming up too, people are going to be asking us questions on that. So if you could just
Page 47 in your budget book is
47?
Page 47 in the budget book, 47.
I knew it was in there somewhere,
Yeah.
so.
So we used 10.3 million for lost revenue in 2021. We then put in 15.2 million into infrastructure, 6 million into neighborhoods, 4.8 million into economic development, 3.4 million into violence reduction, and then another $1 million of administrative costs. That was $40.8 million. That left us with 6.3 million, and what we've proposed in this budget is that we charge that to expenses that we've already incurred, so that that clears out all of the spending from the federal government's perspective on the ARPA funds. We would extend 2.9 million of the existing ARPA programming through 2025. And then there's about 3.5 million that would go towards the capital budget, and it would go towards homeless services. And so that's what we're recommending.
Thank you. And this is really embarrassing because I even have that page highlighted in my book. So I did read it one time, so thank you for clarifying that.
You're welcome. And Councilmember Greb, you've got 3 items here, 8, 9, and 10. I don't know whether the information fulfilled your request, but can you speak, or do you want to speak to any of the 3?
Yeah, if I could, just before we move to the next one here. Tim, you want to pull that out, carry it around downtown, pull it out, and tell them we've been spending it responsibly. That's it. And you can tell them at Northmorland University, we've really been taking care of that intersection there. So, and those neighborhoods, the north, south, east, and west, right, Andre? But we're all set. Denise will make up for it.
We just might have a federal earmark for that intersection coming up. Is that right, Mr. Manager?
That's correct.
Okay.
Manager, I did, and Mayor, I did ask for feedback on 8, 9, and 10. I know we've all learned how to read, so I don't think we need to read it to everybody. If you could provide a Reader's Digest overview.
Well, to your point, I think particularly in question 8, we have been a significant funder of affordable housing in the city of Peoria and in the greater Peoria area. And I think that shouldn't go unnoticed as we talk about issues of how we address homelessness inside the city of Peoria, how we address affordable housing inside the city of Peoria. We have literally put our money where our mouth is in terms of providing affordable housing support inside the region. Now, some of that we have to pass through every year. That's our emergency shelter grant funding, and that is required that we pass that through every year, and we do. But we have been a very active participant in the continuum of care. We have leaned in and provided the support to the agencies that do very difficult work on a daily basis in order to make sure that the facilities that they have are top-notch. You heard this evening, we leaned in and applied for a $2 million grant to assist the Salvation Army. I think that this is a really excellent report back that talks about the investments that we've been making. In addition, it also talks about the additional costs of services that we've been providing to those that are unsheltered in our community right now. And that was documented in that report back as well, so that you can see that those additional costs. What it doesn't include, as I mentioned earlier, is the calls for the fire calls for service are in here, but we don't have the police, so we'll get that information and get that as a follow-up.
And that's been a resource drain. And it's not, Joe Doolan, I'm not forgetting you, and I'm not forgetting Public Works. It's been a drain on them as well. They've been called on to perform many tasks, and I believe we've even utilized JIMAX. We've contracted out for things to be done.
Correct.
So when we go to bed tonight, we should not be feeling guilty that we have not been trying to solve this problem with money. Some problems cannot strictly be solved with money. And so I just hope we'll keep that in mind as we move forward to that special meeting in November. Then I did ask for the OSF mental health facility update, which I think is a critical part of the equation because the number of hospital beds we have for truly acute cases is woefully inadequate down here at Carl, or over here at Carl. And Manager, is that a public-private consortium that's building on 91?
It is. I think it's definitely the hospital system, and they do have a for-profit entity that they're working with. They're going to start construction, I think, in the spring of this coming year, and the beds are definitely needed. So hopefully we're able to see that that provides some assistance to the community as well. And then the last report back really was from the police department, which really talks about some of their strategies on violence reduction that they'll be taking as they move forward into 2025, as we see that some of the violence reduction funding has kind of dried up and, with the end of ARPA. However, there are, and I think the police and department and the police chief is to be commended for the amount of grants that they've been able to leverage and continue to find to help them to provide the support to the department from a technology standpoint, from an operating standpoint, and we're very fortunate to continue to leverage, the newest and best technologies and resources for our police department.
And I do believe, Councilman Riggenbach, correct me if I'm wrong, with what we've approved tonight for the Salvation Army, that's going to expand their capacity to help by at least maybe 18 to 19%. Almost double. My gosh, I had no idea. That is amazing. And then what we're doing at the old Ramada or the Methodist College of Nursing, I date myself saying the old Ramada, that is going to add. And then what I'm hearing too is that, when we took the old federal correctional facility on Monroe and used it for somewhat of a barrier-free setting, we might need more along those lines. Do these
that's correct.
Agencies understand that?
Yeah, I think that we've had a workshop that was led by the Community Development Department, and their team met with the social service agencies and the agencies that are providing direct support to the unsheltered in the community right now. And we talked about it and had a discussion with them, not from the vantage point of we know that they're not supportive of the anti-camping ordinance as proposed, right? We know that that's where we asked them what happens if it passes and what do we need to be preparing for. And Director Doolin and his team are writing up the findings from that meeting, and we'll have that we'll be able to share with you in the future. And we'd like to really hold a special meeting on November 19th to talk about that, just that item, just so that we have it one night with just that item, if council is amenable to that. But ultimately, I think that we probably do need more shelter space. If at the meeting I heard there's roughly about 60 people that are unsheltered inside the city of Peoria at a number of different encampments. So how can we get people housed? That's what we need to do, is get a roof over people's heads. We're getting at the point in the time in the year where the weather's going to be getting cold, the weather's going to be awful outside for, we all know our Midwest winters aren't the best. Mm-hmm. What can we be doing to address that? And what can we be doing going forward in the future so that we have the space in the community to provide that assistance? And that's, the agencies and the federal government have been putting the money towards their needs, right? I mean, the feds have said, hey, we want to put money towards veterans, and we want to now put it towards families. We've got the Salvation Army, which is starting to address men, which is really important. Phoenix, with their efforts of taking the Methodist College, is really going to be focused on families. But we do still have men and women that are facing difficult personal issues, whether it's substance abuse, mental health, or other issues, and we need to find ways that we can get to those really difficult populations. One of the other, I think, small victories that council really should take a lot of credit for, when we came to you and said that we wanted to address the coordinated entry list and look at how we can house people that may not be difficult to house, because the federal government always says focus on the difficult people. We said, well, let's focus on the people that may not be so hard, and can we get them housed and get them housed quickly? And we've been very successful in that effort, and I think we've had about 25 people that we've been able to get off of the coordinated entry list. There's over 600 in the 4-county region, people that are on the coordinated entry list that are either homeless, chronically homeless, or at the threat of becoming homeless, and they're able to. So we were able to help 25 people get off that list. So that's significant. You put in your strategic plan that you wanted to reduce homelessness by 10%, and we just took almost 5% of the people off the coordinated entry list. So that's something that we should be very proud of, and that's something that I think that the community needs to understand, that the city is doing this across all different spectrums of this issue. It's not just the encampments. We're doing it across the gamut. So.
Yes, and as we do this, we have to remember we have citizens whose very livelihoods depend on what happens downtown. We have a huge economic driver called the Civic Center that must be an appealing, enticing, and safe place for people to go at night. We have people who work downtown who need to have an expectation of safety when they leave and go to the parking decks without disease vectors. There are other folks who have rights as well. And I will guarantee you that if you don't know that, you will know it in the days ahead. But we need to take care of the whole thing. We can walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. And I know we will. Mayor, that's all I really have on it.
Okay, thank you. And then
Thank you.
item 11, which was the cannabis dispensaries. There's no funding really to nonprofits. Apparently at the beginning, there was a requirement of a 3% contribution, or there were some options that were given to the dispensaries to make some contributions, and again, there were several options. So I appreciate the research and the clarity that you provided, Council Hayes, and I'm satisfied with the information.
I have an update.
It's
this, if that's all right.
Just what I needed. Yes.
It'll be brief.
Thank you. Are there any? Go ahead. Yes.
Madam Mayor, the ICC confirmed that they did receive the funds, keeping in mind that the only contributions were from medical dispensaries who were getting permission to be an early adult dispensary. So it's a very limited group. Okay. But we did have one in the area that qualified for that opportunity, took it, and funded their responsible part to ICC. ICC turned that money into cannabis educational programming, including ICC having recently attained approval from the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation to provide responsible vendor training for cannabis dispensaries throughout the state.
Okay.
So they have courses at ICC related to this industry. I think it's appropriate that as the industry is legitimized, that young people have the opportunity to get a formal education in the areas where they'd be useful to that industry, and that's what ICC has put that money towards.
Yes.
And so that device did work as intended here, and we have an actual funding program from that benefit, but it's not a continuing benefit.
Okay. And then as far as the sales of our 4 dispensaries here, we don't get to know that information. You provide the statewide information, but we're not able to obtain the local information.
Right.
Is that correct?
We're about to bring a 5th entity online, it looks like, and there's some nascent or early inquiries about a 6th. And so we think that we're approaching the point where we can start publicly disclosing the gross amount of revenues received, perhaps on an annual basis,
Okay.
as long as none of those entities shut down. And so we're going to get some verification of that and likely in the coming months have some level of reporting about the amount of annual revenues the city's appreciating from the local cannabis tax issues.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
That would be helpful. Thank you. Are there any new report back requests from council to staff? Any new requests? Well, thank you, staff. That means you did a good job.
Thank you. We appreciate that. We have a list of a few more follow-ups and report backs that we'll put together and get that information to you. Try and get it in the packet, hopefully by the end of the week.
Okay, very good. Next Tuesday is our next budget meeting.
That is correct. Next Tuesday, we'll have the Truth and Taxation hearing, follow up with this information that we have for you. And if council has any other questions during the week that they want us to look into, we'll be happy to put that together for you as well.
What happens on November the 5th as it relates to budget?
So after we had the public, well, let me put it this way. If there are no motions and council feels comfortable with us proceeding to November 12th without having a need to meet on November 5th, we can do so. But that, we'll see, I guess we can see how the meeting goes on the 29th.
Okay, all right. So there's a possibility that we won't have to meet on November 5th, Election Day,
Correct.
if we can wrap things up
If we can wrap things up.
next week. Okay, all right. Sounds good. Okay. Madam Clerk, I think we're ready to move on.
Okay, we are at new business.
Oh, wait a minute. Do I need to request a motion to close that discussion, or we're good? It's not really,
No, this is not a request to
Okay.
receive and file, just to hold a discussion.
okay. Okay, very good.
So we are at new business.
Is there any new business? Councilman Riggenbach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I received a text earlier during the meeting. I'm sorry, I did look at my phone. But WCBU said they did not catch my comments regarding the Salvation Army. And
No, his is on.
it's not
Red
on?
is on. Red is on.
It's on.
Can you hear me now?
I hear you.
Okay. I'll just get closer, I guess. Sorry.
Okay, maybe that's it.
But out of respect for the commitment Salvation Army has made to our community, I think it bears repeating that we approved an amendment to their special use, which will allow them to move forward with the expansion of the shelter. And the number of beds will go from the low 40s to the low 70s. So it's not quite double, but it's a very significant increase. And again, Salvation Army has multiple tentacles in our community that service so many people that I just really wanted to make sure that they got the recognition for this new project that they deserved. So thank you for allowing me to repeat myself.
You're welcome. It's worth hearing again. Councilmember Greb?
Well, today, you and I, Mayor, had the opportunity, distinct pleasure of attending kind of an unveiling, if you will, of an exciting project that's coming to West Main Street, where the old Neurology Institute has been for so many years. And that building has been an iteration of many things through many, many years. Was an engineering facility, but the elite group, Carl Cannon's group, which works very well with children, they are interested in building a new school there. in accord with the elite principles. And I think it's just extraordinary that OSF literally donated this land to Carl Cannon's elite group. And I think that it will be a wonderful opportunity to serve more of our children who don't quite fit in as well as they should to the traditional programming that we have. Also, Chief Echevarria has reminded me that pretty soon you're all going to be invited to go to the township office building just a little bit farther down the street at Main and Flora as we do the ribbon cutting for the co-response model. November 15. So mark your calendar right now, and that'll be in the morning. And we'll be sure you get an email. We want all of you there. Thank you, Mayor.
You're very welcome. Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was a little slow on the draw, not the first time. On item 24312, I'd just like to ask one question on it. That's the bringing ourselves into compliance with state law on the benefits for police and fire. Is this, or do we have an estimate on what this is going to cost us on an annual basis?
We don't, but we can. Yeah, I don't think we have an estimate. This, I'm going to give you a little more background than our corporation counsel gave. This change in the law occurred because we prevailed in an arbitration hearing here, where we had told one of our police officers who was eligible for PSEBA that they needed to use the high deductible health plan instead of the low deductible health plan, which cost the city more. We prevailed at the arbitration hearing. The unions went down and got the law changed to now require us to have to pay for this. So this is now a state law issue that everyone across the state has to do this. Each one of these changes is a couple $1,000s annually is the difference that we're going to see. But it's the choice of the PSEBA recipient. It's no longer our decision. We spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on healthcare costs for those PSEBA benefits that are paid out. But that's the law. That's what we're supposed to do. So we're complying with it.
So do we have an estimate on the differential?
No, because we don't know if someone's going to take it or they're not.
Okay.
I mean, it's a couple $1,000s a year difference between the two plans.
Yeah. Thank you.
For each individual.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. And I'd like to add an item to new business. Earlier in consent agenda, we approved the appointment of Tom Pelger and Angela Bowden as co-chairs of the Joint Commission on Racial Justice and Equity, the steering committee. And I just want to thank Mary Peterson and Tim Birchie for their exceptional leadership since 2021, since the commission started, of co-chairing that initiative with full dedication and commitment, strong leadership, but really just staying in there and spending a lot of time and effort in leading that steering committee and really working with those 8 subcommittees that are also co-chaired by individuals who are volunteering, all volunteers, over 100 people serving on this joint commission. So I just want to publicly thank Tim Birchie and Mary Peterson for the leadership that they have given to that effort. Okay. Madam Clerk.
We are at citizens' opportunity to address the City Council. I believe we don't have any cards, and there is no executive session, so we are at adjournment.
I would ask for a motion to adjourn, moved by Councilmember Allen, seconded by Councilwoman Gordon Young. Please cast your ballots. Thank you for your service.